CS2 is officially out of content, unless you know where to look. No new maps, none of the old game modes like Arms Race and Danger Zone, and things are looking pretty dire. But if you ask me, all the new content that will define CS2 is in here, the community tab. Here, look at this. This is a CSGO map, and this is the CS2 version. This is CSGO, and this is CS2. Get it? These are 10 of the best looking CS2 maps that I could find from the 2,200 already published. I tried really hard to find maps that no other YouTuber has covered. Maps like Thera have gotten whole dedicated videos, and if you have seen them before, I'm going to give you some sweet side-by-side comparisons to make it worth it, with the best maps saved for last, starting with ZE Pools. Pools is what we would call a liminal space. These are empty and surreal areas that somehow feel familiar. In this case, it's a series of abandoned underground pools. Now, if you look at this map, it's already got nice lighting, but the CS2 version has improved reflections. It's much more saturated, but also a lot of added darkness, making some areas fade beyond view. The entire map feels incredibly creepy and vast, not something you would expect in Counter-Strike. You might be wondering, what is this map for? What is it supposed to be? It's actually a zombie escape map, a game mode where players work together as a team to avoid being converted into zombies. A pretty difficult map at that, and combined with the aesthetic, leads to an intense and pretty scary experience. A lot like our next map, which is by far out of the list the most extreme upgrade. Take a look at the CSGO version. It's likely from CS Source or even earlier, just very basic textures and based on Vietnam. Boom! Nam Viet CS2. A complete mood shift with super dark lighting, contrasted with huge CS2 exclusive explosions. Nam Viet and other CS2 maps are experiences. They are far more engrossing and powerful than the original versions, adding to the fun of the game itself. But this doesn't make it any less annoying to die to the mines. Now, our next map is going to be a weird one, but not on the surface. ZE Mars Escape Xmas is a Christmas map set on Mars, a remake of a hectic zombie escape map filled with traps. And this is Mars Escape Xmas CS2. Immediately you can notice the gold wrap walls like a Christmas present, new floor textures, and overall improved lighting and reflections. And take a look at the details. The walls are ripped where the electrical line is, a sign of decay. This elevator has moving walls, and while you might like the tunes, you won't when you step out. An incredibly creepy experience. And this map is clinically insane to play on an actual server. Extremely crowded and unfair at times due to the traps, and a map that will surprise you round after round. All three of these zombie escape maps aren't just maps, they are intense experiences, adding to the immersiveness of community-made maps with tools we never had access to before. Now we can get a little bit less serious. Take a look at this. This is Whiterun, an absolutely stunning level from Skyrim. Amazing textures and lighting, even the sound is incredible. Take a listen. Now, this appears to be a port from Skyrim, and when I took a look at the Steam Workshop page, there were a bunch of tools listed. I looked through some of them. All of these are conversion tools, and it seems like the porter was actually able to take the map from Skyrim and throw it right into CS2 with a lot of work. While this probably wouldn't be a good comp map, it is simply incredible how good it looks. And it makes me think about how this could be used for other games, levels that could be easily transitioned into CS2 and become content for the community. This brings us to another beautiful map, Akiba. One of the most impressive maps by far. It had multiple authors, and the file size of the map itself was over 2 gigabytes, which is huge, and hopefully you can see why. Akiba is a fully furnished mall with high detail models, multiple stores with insane detail. It looks like what we used to only see in Blender and other advanced renderers. Take a look at this screen. It has its own pixels. Pixels being represented by pixels on your screen. Well, again, I don't know how this would perform as an actual combat map. It absolutely showcases the frontier of Source 2 in CS. Next is Surf Beginner. One of the most famous surf maps ever made. Everybody knows it, and you've likely seen this in other videos. I just didn't realize how different the CS2 version would be. This was the original, and this is CS2. New, darker water, new lighting, and all this, despite these same textures, looks amazing. These are likely the same textures from Counter-Strike Source. However, the best parts were saved for last. The end of Stage 5 is far superior to the original, using new emissions. Here's a side-by-side so you can see, and in my opinion, this is way more engrossing, especially for new players finally beating this stage. But the end is where it shines. Beautiful sunlight coming through the windows and reflected in the water below. This new version obviously feels better than the original one, and even the end room has new lighting and particles. Source 2 is an opportunity for us to get a second try at our maps. For example, take a look at KZ Victoria. This is a KZ map. It's parkour and speedrunning in Counter-Strike, and I really like the original version. It had beautiful water, but it's also really dreary and cloudy. But the CS2 version is an explosion of color, super saturated, and feels a lot more like the tropics. It also has completely new shadows and CS2 textures. Here's a side-by-side or two so you can see the difference. However, the water did feel like a downgrade, even though it was more detailed, especially at distance it got really grainy. Here's a side-by-side of that as well. But as you can see, Source 2 gives us a second chance at interpreting older maps and turning them into something new. However, the next two are not in because of the maps at all. Take a look at Assembly. Assembly is a wingman map set in an aircraft hangar. It looks great. It also makes great use of new PBR textures. However, I saw something interesting. An advertisement, a link to a website which I thought was just fake. And it was fake, just an Easter egg, but still really cool anyway. Now take a look at this. This is Crispy. It's also an advertisement for a real company, Pagoda Egg Rolls. This one in particular is a speedrunning map with a mix of KZ and Surf, and even had this awesome huge skip at the end. However, this is not why we're looking at these. These maps foreshadow how actual companies could advertise in CS2, a sign of corporate interest, and in the future could lead to some map makers doing this as a full-time job, which is obviously awesome for the community. However, it did feel weird to me to hop on somebody else's branding. And of course, there were some maps already covered that I had nothing new to say about. Thera is a remake of DE Santorini that went viral, looks insane, and Pool Day, a classic 1.6 map remade in every single Source game and now CS2, but LED made a whole video about it, so I don't need to. However, this map was by far the most impressive. Very famous already, this is Biome. This map was already great for CSGO. It had tons of detail, interesting lighting, and ideas. However, take a look at CS2. It is on a whole other level. The foliage actually moves with a very slow wind, and there are real-time animated shadows. Take a look at this insane side-by-side. We are getting way closer to realism that I thought CS could ever do. A year ago, I wouldn't imagine looking at a custom map like this. However, this is just one of the 2,200 maps that have been made so far. So if you want to see another episode of this, leave a like or check out my previous video on the new CS2 custom maps. Thank you so much for watching and good luck. Goodbye.